A 2023 published study in JAMA Surgery actually found that AI-generated clinical responses contained at least 1 in 4 incorrect recommendations when tested against validated surgical guidelines. That's 1 in 4. And now imagine you're a third-year medical student and it's 11 p.m., your attending asked you to look up the management of an incarcerated inguinal hernia. You're exhausted, you open ChatGPT, and you get a confident, well-structured answer. And that answer is smooth, authoritative, and beautifully formatted, and is actually wrong. Not wrong in a way that's obvious, but wrong in a way that sounds completely right, until your patient is on the table. And here's what nobody is telling surgical students about AI. In this video, you're actually going to learn 4 things. 1, the specific types of AI errors that most likely to appear in surgical education, and why they sound so convincing. Number 2, how to use AI as a learning tool without letting it replace your clinical judgment. Number 3, real case examples where AI-generated information was dangerously incomplete. And 4th, and lastly, a simple framework, wherein I call it a verified method, to fact-check AI input before it shapes your clinical thinking. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand 1 cognitive trap that makes AI mistakes especially dangerous for surgical learners specifically. Not for attendings, not for nurses, for you right now at this stage of training. Before we dive in, if you're a medical student or surgical resident trying to connect the dots between what you learn in lectures and what actually happens in the OR, this channel is built for you. I've spent decades in general surgery, and my goal here is simple: to take complex surgical concepts and make them practical, systematic, and usable on rounds tomorrow. Hit the like and subscribe, and new videos every week. Here's something I want you to understand at a fundamental level. When an attending surgeon reads an AI response, they read it critically. They have a scaffold, years of anatomic knowledge, operative experience, complication management. And when AI says something wrong, often they feel it before they can articulate it. But when you read that same response, you don't have that scaffold yet. You read AI output the same way you read a textbook. You assume authority, you assume it's been checked. And that's exactly where the danger actually lives. This is called automation bias, a well-documented cognitive phenomenon where humans overtrust automated systems, especially when the output is presented with high confidence and clear formatting. AI language are trained to sound confident, and they don't have uncertainty built into their voice. They don't hedge the way a cautious clinician hedges. A good surgical mentor says, usually we do X, but in this patient, given her renal function and her prior mesh, I think about doing Y. AI says the standard care is X. Full stop. No nuance, no asterisk. Let's go through a clinical scenario. We have a medical student, let's call him Jacob, and he is pre-rounding at 5 a.m. And he sees his patient, a 34-year-old male with right lower quadrant pain, fever, 38.4, a white blood cell count of 14,000. And then he asked ChatGPT, what's the management of acute appendicitis in a stable adult? Well, the AI would respond clearly, non-operative management with antibiotics is a valid first line option with an appendicitis inflammatory response score to restratify. Correct, technically. Yes, that's what's in the literature, but what AI didn't say is that this particular patient had a fecalith on the CT, a stone-like obstruction inside the appendix, which dramatically increases the failure rate of non-operative management with just antibiotics and strongly favors upfront appendectomy. Jacob didn't know how to look for the fecalith. The AI didn't tell him to look for it as well. And His attending caught it. But Jacob walked into rounds presenting a non-operative plan confidently because the AI gave him the confidence he hasn't yet earned. In my review of how AI tools fail surgical learners, I've identified 4 consistent errors and patterns. Write this down. Number 1, omission errors. The AI tells you something that's true, but leaves out the thing that matters most, like our appendicitis case. Antibiotics for appendicitis is true, but the fecalith is an exception, and it's silent. In surgery, what's left out can kill our patient, not just what's stated incorrectly. Number 2, outdated guideline error. Surgical guidelines change. AI training data has a cutoff, and even within the cutoff, it overrepresents older, more frequently cited literature. And if you ask an AI about axillary lymph node dissection in early breast cancer, and depending how you phrase it, you may get pre-Z11 guidance. Guidelines that were overturned in 2011 and have been refined since. But the older papers are cited more, so older thinking bleeds through. Number 3, context collapse. AI cannot examine your patient. It cannot see the CT, and it cannot feel the abdomen. It answers the question you typed. When you type management of small bowel obstruction, the AI answers for every patient with SBO simultaneously. Your patient with prior pelvic radiation, a hostile abdomen, and borderline vitals is not that patient. Clinical medicine is always an N of 1. AI thinks in population. Number 4, false confidence in rare diagnosis. This one is subtle and dangerous. Ask AI about a zebra, a rare diagnosis, and it will answer fluently with pathophysiology, management, and follow-up. But rare diagnoses have sparse literature. The AI is extrapolating, interpolating, and sometimes fabricating, and it will not tell you that's what it's doing. So how are students actually using AI? And this is where it goes wrong. Let me tell you how I can actually see students using AI, because I've watched this in real time on my own service. Scenario A, pre-rounding preparation. A student uses AI to understand the diagnosis they haven't seen before. This is appropriate use with verification, and that's the key. You have to verify the information that you are receiving. Scenario B, answering a pimping question they don't know. The student asks AI and memorizes the answer, presents it confidently. This is dangerous because they have no framework and to know if the answer is right. And here's the difference. In the first scenario, the student is using AI to build a mental model. They can fact check it against up-to-date, their textbook, or their attendings. In the second scenario, the student is using AI as a substitute for a mental model. And when they present wrong information confidently, one of 2 things can happen. Either the attending corrects them and they learn, which is okay. In a teaching hospital, the error compounds upward. The student tells the intern tells the senior briefs the attending, one AI hallucination, 4 links in the chain. Let's see how using AI in a case can be dangerous. Let's talk about Whipple procedure. When a junior resident asks AI, what are the steps of a Whipple procedure? The AI can produce a beautiful logical step-by-step outline. Knowing the words but not understanding them and how to apply them in relation to specifically in the surgery will not be helpful when you're actually performing the procedure. So here's the right way to use AI in surgical training. Let me be clear. I'm not telling you to stop using AI. That would be like telling a resident to stop using Google, and it's not the reality of 2024 medical training. I'm telling you to use it correctly. And here's the framework. You have to build your foundation strong. And this is with regards to reading, listening to lectures, understanding concepts and correlating them with disease processes, including research papers, and then choosing and upraising them properly. When you have that foundation, you now are able to start applying them in the clinical scenario when you start your rotations. You have to have this basic foundation, and then you can use AI to actually increase your reach. So once you build a strong foundation, you can actually use AI to actually expand your reach of your knowledge. And this is where it actually is helpful. When you're analyzing complex scenarios, you can actually use it and then look at all the risk stratification and then look at the literature and then verify it. It's something that can help you analyze more complex information altogether. And this may actually look at different subsets of information that it can pull, but you have to verify it. The other thing is you can actually use it for practice in training with clinical scenarios. That improves and tests your clinical information on a given basis. But again, you have to verify information. When you're evaluating something that's complex, the more you improve your clinical abilities, the better your prompts are going to be. And when you have proper prompts, understanding what to type in, of course, none of them should be HIPAA violating, then you would actually be able to identify which factors can help, which information is going to be utilized to help create further differentials and workup. You can then verify those information and test them to ensure that the thought process is sound. Where not to use AI. Final clinical decision making, drug dosing without pharmacy verification, management of complex or rare surgical conditions without verification, and operative steps you haven't seen or performed. There are videos and books wherein this is going to be available. And here's an important lesson. If you're going to present something you learned from AI, you must be able to explain why it's true, not just that it's true. When you receive an AI-generated clinical information, before you use it, before you present it, before you let it shape your thinking, run it through Verify. Validate the source. Does this align with major society guidelines? ACS, SAGES, EAST, UpToDate. You can also use PubMed as reference for research. Examine for omissions. What did AI not say? What edge cases, exceptions, or patient-specific variables are missing? Ask yourself, what would my attending add to this answer? R, recency check. When was this guideline last updated? A 2019 answer to a 2024 question may be outdated. I, individualize. Does this apply to your patient with their specific comorbidities, anatomy, prior surgery, and medications? Because each treatment is individualized. F, find the mechanism. Can you explain why this is the answer? If you can't, you don't fully understand it. And why you're attending. Before you act on AI-generated information in the clinical context, discuss it with someone who has been in the room, someone who has seen the complication that the AI never mentions. And that is what separates average learners from excellent clinicians. Intellectual humility, the courage to say, I read this, but I need to verify it before I trust it. The attending who taught me the most wasn't the one who knew everything. It was the one who modeled doubt out loud, who said, let me check that, even after 20 years in practice. And that's the standard. That's what you're building toward. So let me summarize everything. Today we covered 1, AI makes you feel more confident than the information warrants. That gap between confidence and competence is where error lives. Number 2, 4 surgical AI error types: omission, outdated guidelines, context collapse, and false confidence in rare diagnosis. 3, the difference between using AI to build your understanding versus using AI to replace it. And 4th, the verify method. Validate, examine, omissions, recency, individualize, find the mechanism, and you're attending. Here's what I want you to walk out with today. Not just a takeaway, but as a professional identity. You are in training to be a surgeon. And as a surgeon who will one day be the last line of defense between the patient and the bad outcome, AI is a powerful tool. But tools don't operate. You operate. And use it, learn from it, but never let it think for you. Did this help you? Well, I genuinely want to know. And drop a comment below. What's one time AI gave you information on rounds that you weren't sure about? Let's talk about it. This is how we learn together. Check out our other videos and click the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.